The banks have won again, and that, of course, is happening in D.C. all around clarity. Today, we'll break it down for you. There is a lot to be discussing on how this strategy plays out. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, and that is iTrust Capital, where you guys can get into a crypto IRA very easily. And of course, you can set it up yourself. You can have, some of your own people that you're working with set it up for you. If you have a current IRA, you can transfer it. A lot of ways to get going over at iTrust Capital. And of course, get into digital assets as well as gold and silver for your IRA. So if you haven't done it already, this is one of those things that helps you diversify. And it's a great tool for you to kind of build wealth. So check it out. Use our link down below. Get a $100 funding reward just to get started. I want to lead off before I bring on our guest, Kevin Wysocki, coming in from Anchorage Digital. I want to lead off with this clip that kind of puts things in perspective. Take a look.
I'm having a beer. Why? Because today is a good day. The good guys won. I teamed up with Indivisible and Americans for Financial Reform, and together we beat the corrupt crypto bill, the Clarity Act. A few months ago, the odds of it passing were 75%. Now it's dead. In fact, we beat it so bad they didn't even bring it up for a vote. Cheers.
All right. So, and that, of course, has been McKenzie. He's been one of the actors that have been out there pushing on this for quite some time, and I do say that as an actor for the industry. So I wanted to bring on Kevin Wysocki to kind of talk about this and take a look at the current situation, Kevin. So welcome back into the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Paul.
Okay, so last time we were on, you were very pro, this is going to happen. We are going to see it. It's going to go through. Things didn't turn out that way. Obviously, we are now seeing some pretty, I think, interesting fallout within the industry, and also, I think, a lot of confusion around that. So we want to clear that up today. I want to start off, first of all, what do you feel in terms of how this landed for the Republicans? If you look at Brendan Peterson, he kind of hit it right here. He says, hey, listen, the community bankers who urged Senate Republicans to slow down the Clarity Act. You'll notice that it actually boiled down. This was Brad Bolton, one of the CEOs of a small community bank that came in. And it was basically him saying, hey, it took community bankers like me out of the middle of nowhere telling senators this is the real effect of it. These were kind of the last-ditch efforts of what the banking industry was able to successfully do to get this delayed. First of all, what is your response on that? Obviously, that was effective, but do you think there's more coming?
I think it's still a little bit early, right? There's a good chance we're going to get a vote on this in September. The banks, ironically, need the Clarity Act to pass. Right now, basically yield on stablecoins through Genius is the law of the land, and any third party can provide it. I think it's premature to say that this is over. I think it's premature to say either side has won. I also think it's really interesting in the marketplace where you're seeing a number of banks actually get into this space through stablecoins and certainly tokenized deposits. So this isn't over, and there's a little bit more to be written on this, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Well, of course, one thing you could consider right now is that bureaucratic rules will start to make their way into crypto because of non-clarity. That could come from the SEC. But if you look at that, I mean, Kevin, wouldn't you agree that the banks have been pretty much the best in the game at being able to manipulate how rules are written from a lot of our bureaucrats? Won't they be able to come in and kind of force their own way through of getting their way in the way of rulemaking versus in the way of how Congress is trying to set this up?
They definitely have a lot of influence, but I think even with the Genius Act, right, there's going to be a rulemaking on yield. I think because of Loper Bright, they're not going to be able to change that. It's still going to be limited. They're not going to be able to restrict yield. So I don't know. I think it's to be determined here. They do have influence, but you look at some of the big fronts right now on banks and crypto, whether it's access to Fed master accounts, whether it's OCC charters, whether it's stablecoin yield. There's been a lot of success by the digital asset community on all those fronts. So I don't have the doom and gloom that some people have over this. I think it's still early enough where we can right this ship. And again, I think the banks really need the Clarity Act if they're concerned about yield.
All right. Well, okay. So I can't quite get my head around this because they have been fighting so hard, and it's kind of even evident right here. This was in reference to Mike Rounds, who it was kind of interesting because the statement here, we asked Senator Mike Rounds this morning that what bankers need to appeal so strong, they know us. And Rounds kind of went in, each of us knows the people personally. So this gets into a very personal situation with many of these lawmakers. The bankers seem to have kind of the inside track, not only to what's happening in the local communities, they have the inside track on how to attach to the bigger senators that have kind of led the charge, and that means Warren, Gallegos, Senator also Brooks, many of which kind of have been in this position before. I just don't know if, based on what I'm seeing right now, if this actually goes to a vote. Because right now, explain to me what happens when they come back, because my understanding is this is just a cloture vote, right? Not a vote on clarity, just a cloture vote.
That's exactly right. It's a procedural vote to get on to discerning whether or not the Senate will actually ultimately pass this bill. So it's a procedural vote that just kicks us off. But you need 60 votes. So right now, that means you need at least 10 Democrats. You might need more because there are about 7 or 8 Republicans that may not be in favor of this legislation at this moment. But I want to point out, right, the biggest thing here is ethics. Right, yield is getting a lot of attention right now, but if we can get to a bipartisan agreement on ethics, that's what really opens the door for us to consider this legislation again. Without the ethics deal, I don't think you can get to 60. Yield, I actually think there are a couple of senators that are definitely hearing out their constituents, talking through this, saying it might not be exactly what they want. But if all of a sudden we have a bipartisan ethics deal, I could see some of these senators that have expressed concern maybe coming back over to support clarity without any changes on yield. I've talked to Senator also Brooks' office, right? Key negotiator on the Democrat side for that yield provision in clarity. And they made it very clear that they don't want to open this back up. Now, there are a handful of senators, Republican and Democrat, that are considering it, but I don't know that they have a majority yet at this point.
All right, so if they don't, okay, so that's the question right now, because I think the issue is being able to get to that 60. And I don't know how to trust these guys because, we've been watching this for months, almost 18 months now, really following it very closely, full research. We've probably interviewed more people on this topic than anybody maybe in the world in terms of how this potentially will play out. And one of the things that keeps haunting me is the way that our lawmakers will promise something, and even to the point of where they were saying, hey, we're going to stay late, we're going to extend our session, and we're going to get this across the line. And then they end up going with a voice vote to actually leave Congress and not get this underway. Last minute, Thune throws this on the cloture for possibly getting on the docket in September. These are the kind of tactics that I didn't anticipate. Well, I should have anticipated, but I didn't actually see them playing out the way they are right now. Let's assume that we go back in September and they go into a situation on that first day. What is the true options that they can get into? Because my understanding, there's like 5 different things that can actually occur here other than just a vote.
Well, one of the good things is that before the Senate left, they got through a lot of the Senate nominations. They got through the Russian sanctions. So that clears up time in September. Now, there are other issues going on. They have NDAA, right? They have the NIL deal. They might do Reconciliation 3.0 and, of course, clarity. So that's roughly 4 things that are kind of on the docket for September. I really, Paul, I really think this. Like, if we're going to get a bill across the finish line, we need a bipartisan ethics deal. And it doesn't so much matter what's in it. What matters is there are enough Democrats that support it. I think the yield issue, I think the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act, some of the illicit finance issues, some of the agriculture tax issues, I think those are all secondary. So I think there's actually a lot of pressure right now to figure out a deal on that. And if that can't be done, then I don't think we're going to get the bill. So it really, to me, comes down to ethics. And I think what we're going to see in the not so distant future is some of these agencies coming out with rulemakings on crypto, very pro crypto rulemakings. Obviously, the administration has done a ton of that with the various agencies, but I think that's going to happen on steroids soon.
All right. So a couple of things to line it up for our audience. September 15th is when they return. That's when, Thune has kind of earmarked this to potentially go in. And remember, this date is a vote for a vote. It's simply just to say, negotiations are over, I guess, or they've agreed that negotiations are over, and that they would put this up for a vote. So how are they negotiating anything with all of these senators out of D.C. now? I mean, you would assume that most of this stuff is being done in person, I would think. How would they be negotiating anything right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of this is done at the staff level, right? It's Patrick from the White House. It's key staff for Senator Lummis, key staff for Schumer, having conversations, negotiating, trade associations, working on this legislation. Also, various companies weighing in on it as well. So a lot still happens during the August recess. It's a bit of a misnomer calling it a recess, in my opinion. Staff are usually still there, and they're pretty busy. So they're going to work on this over the August recess, and again, hopefully we can get a bipartisan deal on ethics.
What do you think the odds are right now? I mean, if you look at it today, I mean, there's been a little bit of movement right here on Clarity, actually quite a bit of a spike. This is the 1 week from that low right there of about 14%. It's spiked up. Why is that?
Well, I think it's all or nothing, right? You're either going to get a bill or you don't. And if it truly is the ethics issue that's the linchpin to force a vote where that's tough on the Democrats, I like those odds if we get that. So I would say without an ethics deal, it's probably zero. If you get an ethics deal, I think you're at 75%, right? It really hinges on that. Yeah, everything is on the
hasn't the
ethics.
White House already come back and said that with the Gallegos provisions that they had agreed to that second round of ethics? Hasn't that already been somewhat agreed upon?
I don't think they've agreed to the Tillis Gallego text, and they've been relatively quiet. It would be great though if both sides continue to work on it and they came to a resolution. I don't know that they will for certain, and that's why I think you're going to see a lot more activity at the agencies in the near future. We still might have a vote in the Senate, the cloture vote, like the vote to vote, like you said, but I would expect that to fail if there's not an ethics thing. I think from the Democrat offices I've spoken with, they're thinking about it in this way. So they're like, look, we have a various constituencies. Some of them are very anti-Trump. Trump allegedly has made a lot of money off of digital assets. That constituency doesn't like it. They're not going to do anything that is perceived as supporting Trump. So they feel that their hands are tied. They can't do that. So they're saying they needed stronger ethics language. They also pushed back really hard on any type of cloture vote before they adjourned because they thought it was a show vote. They thought then then the PACs would load up, spend a bunch of money on Republicans, and it would be quite unfair. And I think Thune ultimately decided, you know what? I now have 7 or 8 Republicans that are at least flirting with the idea of not voting for this. I can't do this show vote anymore. I can't show strong support for this bill among Republicans because there are a couple, they're probably, like I said, 7 or 8, but a core maybe 3 or 4 that could be a problem. So that's where we stand right now. And I think I'm saying the same. I really do think it comes down to ethics.
All right, so, and I just want to make this clear for everybody, that this is I think this is a major flaw right now in the Republican Party, in the sense that we have that many people that are going against this, in the sense of, where most Republicans are set up on this right now, and that is to get, clarity through. And this also makes me believe that there is something else at work here. I want to play a clip because the anti-crypto ads are already starting to run, and we know who's behind this. Let me show you this. Take a look.
So you have a real choice. Auntie Craig voted to let Trump make billions selling crypto coins. I won't. I'm Peggy Flanagan. I approve this message. Minnesota deserves a real fighter and a real Democrat.
Crypto special interests are pushing for loopholes that will create a shadow financial market. That means market chaos, more crime and corruption, and fewer protections for your money. It's a threat to hardworking people from all walks of life. Retirement mistakes, college savings, your family's future. It's all on the line. The Senate must reject this crypto scam.
All right, so this is just the beginning of what could be a full-blown, ad campaign that's going to be heating up. Then you could go over to Investors for Transparency. This is another one in reference to financial innovation. Only problem is this course is anti-crypto, but the point is we can't figure out who actually is behind it, nor do they even take donations. So I'm assuming this is going to be another special interest group that continues to push on this. Then you look at the situation right now between Fairshake and obviously what you guys are doing. And Blockchain Leadership Fund obviously is kind of the repositioning of that. But I think the point getting at is that this is getting very tight. If there's not actions taken right now, by any one of these lobby groups that are out there, trying to, and I should say support groups that are out there trying to defend for crypto in general, and possibly, be able to succeed in some way of getting some of these lawmakers out of office that are voting against this, the likelihood is all of this is going away before we even get back in September, because most of these votes are probably going to be mailed in anyway. So it's almost as though this is almost too late. Now, no matter what happens, you can't threaten them for losing office, because it's likely that this won't get a show vote. We won't know who even to, go in and support and not to support. So how would you answer that for the crypto industry in general with all that happening?
Well, I think you have to ask yourself, what if there was a show vote, all the PACs put their money into Republicans, and then they came back in September and the Dems were like, you know what, we're just going to vote no because you gave all the money to the Republicans, right? You have to think that would not be a good position for industry. That would not be a good position for this bill. So I think we have to be very prudent about which policymakers are really helpful here, which ones are not. And I think when you're on the ground talking to these folks, you have a clear picture who's really behind this stuff, who's on the fence, and who's opposed. I do think if you did get to a point on this legislation where you took the ethics issue out and you were just voting on policy, I think most members of Congress and the Senate, right, would vote for this. And I think that because of all the things that these ads just said, for the most part. You want consumer protections? Well, there's registration and reporting requirements through the SEC and the CFTC for centralized intermediaries like exchanges and broker-dealers. Another consumer protection that's great in there, right now, an exchange, if it fails, you might not get your funds back. The law, the clarity, if it would become law, it would say explicitly that those are customer funds, so it's bankruptcy remote. That's a huge consumer protection win. So we'll have to see what happens with the PAC stuff, and it is getting late in the cycle on this, to answer your question. But I think it would have been a mistake to deploy all those funds too early and then potentially alienate any Dems from supporting the legislation.
Okay, so too late, and I think this goes back because it was way too late. So really, the war was lost, I feel like, months and months ago when the banks were able to successfully put this on a derail path. And now it's in a position where we as the industry really don't have any choice. You have to wait. You have to wait to see how this plays out. Because even at post on this, in terms of whether they don't push it through or even put it up for a vote, let's say it gets through cloture, it doesn't mean it's guaranteed to get up for a vote. Let's assume they just don't put it up for a vote after cloture. At what point does the industry go, okay, well, it's too late to affect this midterm now, and now you've got the House pretty much and most likely going to be controlled by Democrats, and that's going to create in its own way probably a flurry of investigations. I can't even imagine the amount of investigations that are coming if the House is lost to the Democrats, because that's typically where these investigations are sprung from. So that in itself is only going to, showcase crypto in another way, possibly really bad again. So how would the industry be able to defend against this? I'm looking at it like they've been outplayed here almost every angle.
I would say it's already been baked for a while that the House is going to go Democrat. What we're really talking about here is whether the Senate will stay red or go blue. Often there's an October surprise. If there's a vote or there's not a vote in September, I think there's still an ability to influence the outcome of those elections. And I think there are a number of crypto voters. There are a number of people that view this technology as advantageous to, make their life better, at least on the margins. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's still a way to influence at least the Senate races in November.
All right. Well, influence the Senate races in November. Obviously, this is still going to be tight. I think most of the votes are going to be in by November, probably in by October. So a lot of this is going to still be kind of ruminating around D.C., whether or not we even get a vote or not. You have Senator Lummis also putting in right now. She, of course, is going after the editorial or at the editorial board there in terms of the Clarity Act, which is worth supporting. And then you had her and also Moreno actually going in together and trying to go against big banks when it comes to protecting credit card, fees, et cetera. So this is one of the things that kind of slowed it down in the Genius Act, was when that was put up, when credit card fees were attacked during the Genius Act. That was one of the big deals, I think, that came off the table and helped the Genius Act get through. That, of course, now being potentially pushed on here. So here we are, man. How much ground do you think the banks are going to gain in the next 30 days? I mean, we got 35 days. That's a lot of time between now and just the cloture vote.
I don't think they gain anything unless Clarity passes, right? Genius is the law of the land. You don't restrict yield unless Clarity passes. That's why we got to let this play out. It's still too early. I know that, like we were talking about earlier, community banks have been very active on this stuff, and there are a lot of concerns about yield. If those concerns are true, you need clarity. So we're going to have to wait and see. I think yet. There are a lot of political factors. Again, ethics is the most important piece, but community banks should be in favor of this legislation if it restricts it further.
Yeah, Kevin, I don't know. I just look at it this way. This let's just assume that it doesn't go through. And to me, if I'm in the banking industry, it's the perfect plus. I mean, it's the perfect place for me to do this. It's no longer even question what Congress had intended, because the Genius Act is the law of the land. Now I can go directly into the CFTC and the SEC, work my magic as the banking industry, the ABA, and start to correlate how to basically create rules around this that are going to benefit me. So I think it actually benefits them if this doesn't go through. They then can go in and do what they do best, and that is manipulate how a lot of this bureaucratic artwork is done as law.
I think they would need an act of Congress to restrict yield. I don't think the OCC rulemaking will be finalized in the coming months, and we'll know the answer on yield then. So they might be banking on the fact that the OCC does something, but because of Loper Bright, I think that's impossible. So they're going to have to find a vehicle in the next Congress that's divided and deal with the same struggle we have with Clarity, getting a supermajority in the Senate and a majority in the House, and then also the Republican president to agree to a major change to his signature legislation for crypto.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Interesting. All right. Well, here's Grayscale, Zach Panel. He's on our show quite a bit, and he says crypto can keep advancing if Clarity Act fails. And he's talking about what I'm getting at, which is the SEC rulemaking. I'm concerned about this on the SEC rulemaking side, especially with the bank influence there. You think that, we were talking about this pre-show, you think that the SEC might actually accelerate some rulemaking? Do you think that's going to happen before September, or do you think they'll wait and to see how it plays out in early September?
I think they're going to move on their own schedule now, and I would expect it to be expeditiously. I think they've been holding back. I also think this actually helps with the clarity debate in Congress. It puts pressure on the no's or those that are on the fence if they see the agencies acting. If they want to have a greater hand in constructing the rules of the road for crypto, they should pass the Clarity Act. Otherwise, it will be the agencies that will be writing the rules of the road.
Okay, so I mean, that's an interesting angle in the sense that the SEC forces Congress' hand. So that's one angle. Maybe they were waiting for the recess to occur and say, okay, it's not going to happen, so we've got to go ahead and implement this. That's a possibility. Or you have to go the other option, and that is, no, let's just wait and see if Congress actually does what they say they're going to do with Thune exiting office and say, we're going up first thing, 2 p.m. in September, and we're going to get this done. So it could roll it back even further. I don't know that delaying another 30 days would be that much of an impasse for the industry, but it would showcase the SEC's ability to at least maybe get something in play for the industry around rulemaking. So I'm kind of on the fence with this. I'm intrigued with your angle that they may try it that way, but so far I just haven't seen anything out of them that has kind of implemented that for sure. All right, let's talk about this, because as we start to see more negativity coming from the industry, how do you think this is going to play out? As I was talking about earlier, once the House is lost to the Democrats, the likelihood is we're going to see all sorts of things coming at the Trump family, most likely, around everything from WLFI to you name the entity that's been involved in it, you know, all the way down to, you know, Witkoff's, all the way down into Cantor Fitzgerald. I mean, you could go just start stacking this. Do you think that the industry is prepared for that?
I've been expecting this for a long time. Again, like I think it's, like I said, I thought it's been baked for a while that the House is going to turn blue. And I think this is a natural place for Democrats to go. So I think everyone is expecting this. It's going to be difficult, though. There's going to be a lot of incoming. So yeah, there's going to be hearings. There's going to be investigations, right? There's going to be a lot of activity on this front, and it'll be even worse if the Senate is controlled by the Dems as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the fact that it's going to, even if, let's assume that the Senate holds right now, and the House is right now, for the most part, the House looks as though it's going to turn blue. But this is going to, of course, create, as we all know, I mean, it's like what we're seeing with Fauci right now. I mean, this is front and center news. So everybody's going to be talking about this, even non-crypto and non-tech and even non-finance podcasts and shows are going to be talking about this for months and months and months, which is going to, I think that it could end up damaging crypto maybe permanently, at least in the United States. What do you think about that? Do you think that if this does not land well in September and the House turns blue and we start to see this kind of craziness, what do you think happens after that?
I think it's going to be challenging, but I think there's only a small part of the industry that's affected by this directly. Obviously, it brings up a lot of topics that are difficult for the industry. But one of the things that's really great that I've seen over the last 18 months is just how much digital assets and blockchain has been accepted broadly by traditional financial institutions. So yes, there's going to be some negative publicity, but overall, I think we'll definitely be fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I'm glad that you still have, listen, I look at all of these angles. I'm looking at it from a political standpoint, but also from a technology standpoint. Technology usually wins in the end. But at this point right now, there is a headwind that I think is very challenging. And that, of course, I think is the banks. The banks will continue to play hardball, pushing in ways maybe we don't even understand just yet. And that's going to be the thing that plays out maybe over the next 30 days. Hey, Kevin, we're going to get you back on because in September, either you're right or you're wrong on this, okay? Either I'm right or I'm wrong. And we're going to find out in September. So I'm going to bring you back and we can do a victory dance or we can hand you your roses, whichever is required at that time, okay?
Yeah, that sounds fun.
All right.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. We appreciate it. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.